Hello everyone. So in this session, I'm going to discuss XPath access implementations. So today we will show the demo, how we can select, how we can locate elements that are available on the web page using XPath access. So in the last session, we have already discussed what is XPath access. Just we recap all those terminology, the terminology that we are using in XPath access, and then we will check how we can find element using XPath access. So in the XPath access, we have using these are terminology. If you talk about parent, parent means not immediately just above. Child means not immediately below. Ancestor actually gave parent and grandparent. We can say parent, parent to parent and till root node. And descendant means child and its grandchildren. Sibling means the node with sharing the same parent node, that is called the sibling. Okay, let's now we are try to understand how we can use. So go to the browser. In this browser, we are opening this URL. And now here you can check here. In this page, we have these are several input elements. You can check a first name, last name, email, password, and repeat password. Suppose in this page, I want to find email element. I want to locate which element? Email element. So let's try to understand how we can find. If you want to find email element, you can right click on email element and you can inspect that element. Now we click on inspect. Now inspect that email element. Now you can check it. And then you can press Ctrl F to write an XPath. Okay, now here you can check here, very important point. This is a input field. Yes, no, this is a input field. And now you can check it. These are input field and these are children of div element. Yes, no, div is a parent. And now one more important point, all in who is the parent of div? H1, anchor tag, and then label, then input element, input. All these elements are in the same label of its parent. So we can call these are sibling element. We can call these are sibling element. This means the element, yes, no, which are child of which having the same parent and occur at the same label. So we can call those element as a sibling element. Just like suppose we have one parent A and now parent A has children B and C and D. Now B and C and D are sibling because they are in the same label. So here you can check out all the input element are in the same label. So we can say these are sibling element. All these element are sibling element. And now we want to find which element? We want to find the input, this element, email element. Now you can check here how we can find this input element because here each this input element doesn't have any specific attribute, by which we can identify. Here this input element having one type attribute, but more than one input element having the type attribute. So we can't uniquely identify this element by using type attribute. Okay, you can check here if you're trying to find. So by writing the XPath, how we can write double slash, we want to find which element, input element, and now push type attribute at the rate type attribute value equal to text. Now if you write this, you can check how many element it will find out. It will find 5 elements. So it's very difficult to find that input element because this input element doesn't having any specific attribute. It doesn't contain any name attribute also, ID attribute also, a class attribute, any specific attribute. It doesn't contain any specific attribute. Then how we can find this input element? Actually, we need to find this input element. So how we can find this input element? Because this input element doesn't having any specific attribute by which we can select it. So then we can, how we can select? Let's understand how we can select that input element. let's we try to understand how we can select that input element. Okay, you can check here, guys. This input element, which input element we want to select? This input element, email input. Okay. Now, very important, you can check here. This is a label element. All element are sibling element, but you can check it just after label. Which element is come? Input element. These are sibling element, but this input is a following sibling element. Yes, no? Following sibling element. So now you can check here. Using this label element, you can select that input element. First, you need to reach to which element? First, we try to reach this label element. And then after label, you can check here. These are sibling element, following sibling, just after, yes, no? So following sibling means just after, yes, no? So now you can check here, we select the label element. How we can select label element? So label element, you can select label using their text. What the text value? So now text value is an email. So we can use text function, and now we need to select which element which having the text value as a email. Now you can check here. We are able to select which element? Email element. Now after this email element, which element is come? This input actually basically we need to select. So all these are sibling element. Now which sibling we need to? Then slash, and then you can use the axis. Here you can use following sibling. So sibling, following sibling. And then after that axis, you can write colon symbol, double colon symbol, and then you can specify, you can check here double colon symbol, and then you can specify which sibling you want to select. If you want to write asterisk, it means it select all following sibling element. So how many elements selecting? 13 following sibling. But basically, which following sibling element you need to select? You can check here input type. So you can mention here input. Now you can check here how many element is selecting, how many following input element is available. There are 2 element is available. Now it's selecting 2 element. You can check input type equal to text, and second one is the input type equal to password. Now there are 2 actually it's selecting, but basically we need to select which one? We need to select this one. Now you can check here in both input element. Now you are able to identify using their type attribute, because the type attribute of this input element is a text, and this input element type value is a password. So after that, you can write yes, no, square bracket, yes, no, within a square bracket, you can specify your predicate. Now which attribute? Type attribute, at the right type attribute value equal to text. Now put the square bracket. Now you can check here. Now you're able to select that specific element. Now you can click here, you can check here. Now we are able to select that input element. So in this way, you can check here, we are able to find out that particular element. So here you have seen following sibling. So following sibling, how we can use? You can check here. Actually, we need to reach to which element? We want to reach to this element. So we have seen all these element are sibling element of which element? Div element. Yes, no? So we want to reach to which element? I want to reach to this input element. So we can reach this element using, actually this element occurs just after label, yes, no? So we can use following sibling, yes, no? So label element we can select using their text. So slash label text equal to email. And then you need to select which sibling. These are sibling elements. So you can use following sibling slash following sibling. This is your access, and then double colon. Which following sibling element you want to select? I want to select input type following sibling element. Now it's selecting 2 input element, but one is a input type equal to text, another is a input type equal to password. So now in both, now you can uniquely identify using their type attribute. Then you can use predicate at the rate type equal to text. Then you are able to find out that element. So this is a one approach, yes, no? And you can use that approach to selecting an element in the following. So you can check here. This is a following sibling element. We are using sibling element. Following sibling, you can check here. Following sibling, you can check we are using. Okay. Now we have one more approach also. You can check here. Okay, either there are how many text box it's selecting, you can check here. Either you can use this one or you can check here also. How many text box it's selecting? It's selecting two text box. This is the first one and this is the second one. You can press enter. This is the second one. And now this is the first one. So you need to select which one? First one. So you can specify their position also. Within a square bracket, you can specify position. So which input element you need to select? We need to select first one. So now you can write in this way also. So this is a way to using the following sibling. You can check here. Here we can use any one of the approach to select that appropriate element. Now let's we try to understand. Suppose this is a which element we have selecting? We have selecting this email element. Now who is the parent of this input element? Suppose my requirement. Suppose you have select this element. That is the element that you have selected. Now my requirement, I want to select parent node of this current node. This is my current node that we have selected. So we have selected this current node. Now my requirement, now we want to select its parent element. So which one is a parent? So how we can select its parent element? So you can use axis. Which axis? Parent axis. How we can write? Slash, and then you can use axis name parent and then double colon. So you can check here. If you're writing asterisk, it means it's selecting all parent. So you can check how many parent is available. Only one parent is available, div. If you're writing axis, it will select all parent. Otherwise, if you want to select only div type parent, so you can write div. Now you can check it. So in this way, we can select its parent axis. So parent axis what give? Just direct immediately above its above element. So which is the above immediately of this context node? This div is the direct above of this context node. So this is a parent axis. Now in this way, we can write parent axis. So we have select this input element and we want to suppose this is our context node. I want to select its parent element. So slash and then you can use axis parent, double colon, and which parent? Suppose div parent. Okay. Now we understand one more. Now we understand child axis. Let's go to this is a div element. Now this div having several children element. So suppose I want to select its children element. So we have child and we have descendant. Child means just below, yes, no? So how we can select its children element? Okay. This div element, you can check here guys, this div element you can easily select because you have one attribute, class attribute. Class attribute contain container value. So if you want to select that input div element, you can select by using their class attribute. So how we can write XPath? You can write XPath double slash div element, and I want to select that div element whose class attribute value equal to container. Whose class attribute value is container. Now you can check here. It select that div element. Now what we need to do? We need to select its children element. So if you want to select its children element, suppose this is our current node, context node. I want to find children element in the context of this node. So how you can find its children element? Then you can write slash and you can use child access slash child and then double colon you can write. And which children you want to select? If you want to select its all children element, then you can write asterisk. You can check here. How many children element available? 26 children available. How many children is available? 26. But now what my requirement? I need to select which children element? I want to select only input type element. Yes, no? Because my requirement, I need to select this email element. So you can check here. You can select this email element in this way also. So this is the input element. There are 26 children, but basically we need to select which children? Input type. So here we can write double colon input. Now you can check here how many input element is selecting? 4 input element. So which input element we have required to select? This is the first one, second one, third one. So we need third element. So you can use position. So within a square bracket, you can specify position. Now you can check here. You are able to select that appropriate element. Now that element is selected. So you can select this element using this approach also. So first we have selected parent, and from parent we are selecting its all children element. In this children we are selecting only input element, only input children element, and then we are selecting, we record which input children element, third one, then we specify its index position. So this is one more approach we can use select a element using child access. So this is the way we can use child access. So we can use child access. So we can use parent access, following sibling access, child access. How we can use parent access, child access, following sibling access. Let's understand other example also. Let's we close it, and now here you can check here. I will take here one more example. Okay, if you scroll down, you can check here. Here you have one table. You are able to see here. This is a one table is here is given. Now you can check it. This is a table. In this table, you can check here. We have several checkbox. This is a several checkbox. Yes, no? So suppose my requirement, I need to select first checkbox. So how we can select first checkbox? Okay, let's try to understand. If you right click on that element and click on inspect because I want to select that element, now you can press Control F, and now you can check here. This is the input element, input type equal to checkbox. Now you are here, you can check here there are several checkbox, but suppose I need to select this checkbox, first checkbox, and now this input type equal to checkbox. Actually, this element also doesn't having any specific attribute by which we can select. If you try to select this element using type attribute, so because multiple element have type attribute whose value checkbox, you can check here. If you are writing XPath in / input, I want to select input element using, we want to select all those input elements which having type attribute value equal to checkbox. So now you can check here how many checkbox is selected. It's selecting 6 checkbox. But what my requirement? My requirement, I require to select first checkbox. Okay, so you can write in this way, and you can specify position also. Suppose I need to select first checkbox, you can select in this way. But you can check here. One more approach. Actually, we need to select which checkbox. You can check. I need to select this checkbox. Now you can check. I need to select which checkbox. I need to select this checkbox. So this checkbox just actually available within this TD. Yes, no? And we have one more TD. Yes, no? This TD just come after this TD. If you are able to reach here, you can check here. This is a following sibling, we can say. Suppose if you are able to reach to this TD, once you reach to this TD, from this TD, you can reach to this TD. Yes, you know? Because this TD is a sibling, but it is a following sibling. Yes, no? Following sibling just before. So this is a following sibling. And now once you reach this, now this input element is the child element of this TD. Yes, no? So first we are trying to reach this TD. From this TD, we are reaching to this TD because this is a following sibling. And now once you reach to this TD, under this TD, we have this input element as a children element. It means we need to select its children element. Then we are able to reach to that particular element. We need to select which element? TD element. Which TD element? You can check here. I need to select that TD element whose text value is a Maria Ender. So we can select that TD element using their text value. So we can use text function, text equal to we can pass a function, text function. Now you can check here, we are able to select that TD element. Now now we need to select which TD. Once you able to select that TD, then we need to select its following sibling element. Sorry, preceding sibling. Preceding sibling means just before. So this is a preceding sibling. So let's now we're selecting its preceding sibling element. So you can use access preceding hyphen sibling. And which preceding sibling element you can use? Double colon. Then if you're writing asterisk, it means you can check it. It's selecting how many sibling, only preceding sibling is available, only one. So you can write asterisk or you can write TD. Yes, no? You can check, still it's selecting one element. Now you can check here, you are able to select this TD. Now in your input type equal to checkbox available within this TD. So it means now you can select its children element. So if you want to select its child element, then you can use child access slash child double colon. How many child you want to select? If you want to select all children, you can write asterisk. It having only one children element, so that's why it's showing one. In place of a star, if you want to select specific children element, you can specify their type. So we need to select which element? Input type. Now you can check here. Now you are able to select first checkbox. You can check here. Now you're able to highlight it. So this is the approach that we can use, yes, no, preceding sibling to selecting, yes, no, appropriate element. So here the problem is that actually we are not able to identify this input checkbox, yes, no, with any specific attribute because this element doesn't have any specific attribute. So how we can reach this element? So we are try to understand how we can reach. We know actually we can reach till this element. Once we reach this element, so just above, it means just before we have one more TD, yes, no, that is a preceding sibling of this element. And now from here we can reach to here. And once we reach to here, from here we can select its children element because this is the children element of this TD. So first what we need to select this element. How we can select this TD? Using their text equal to Maria. And then slash preceding sibling, we can use preceding sibling access. Which preceding sibling we want to use? TD. Then once we reach to the here, and then you can use child access slash child double colon, and then which child element you want to select? Input type. And now you are able to reach to that particular element. So here you are able to see this sometimes very complex and very difficult to selecting an element because there might be chance element doesn't having any specific attribute by which you can select. And then here you can check here the axis is helpful for selecting those elements. Okay, so now here we have select that element. Let's now we understand this is we have discussed preceding sibling. Now we are selecting its parent element. Okay. Now we are trying to understand one more scenario. You can check it, guys. Here you can check it. This is a several button. Register, clear, reset, and refresh button. Suppose out of 4 button we want to select this register button. So right click on this button and you can inspect. You can click on inspect. You can check here. This is a button. Now, can you check? You can find this register button with any specific attribute. We can't find this register button by using any specific attribute because it doesn't contain any specific attribute. It contains class attribute, but more than button element also having class attribute and type attribute also having, so we can't select. So you can check here. This is a div element. Yes, you can check here. And now under div, we have this button. Now its parent, you can check here, which is a parent. These are parent. And now we have one grandparent container. So you can check this is a parent. Under that parent, you can check here. Okay, let's first we select this element. How we can select this element? So this div you can select using their which attribute? Class attribute. At the rate class attribute value equal to container. So it means I want to select that div element whose class attribute is container. Okay, so let's now we press Control F / div square bracket @ class attribute equal to container. Let's check here, guys. Now you're able to select that container element. Now this container element contains these are children element, but you can check here. This button actually input type equal to button register button. Yes, no. This register button is not a direct children. It is the descendant grandchildren. Yes, no, of this element. Okay, now my requirement, I need to select all children of this current node. We want to select descendant. It means if we want to select children and its grandchildren. If you want to select children and grandchildren of its current node, then you can use access descendant. Descendant access you can use. Double colon and you're writing asterisk. So you can check here the spelling we need to check here. Okay, let's match the spelling descendant. Okay, check it /descendant double colon and now we want to select all element asterisk. You can check it. There are how many children and grandchildren? 40. So if you're selecting all, but actually we want to select only which type element? We want to select only which type element? You can check button type. Which type? Button type. You can check here button type. Which type element you want to select? Button, only button. So you can write button. So now you can check how many button is selected. 3 button is selected. So out of 3 button, we required which button? First button. Actually, register is one of the first button. Yes, no? Now you can check here. Now you are able to select this register button. So you can check here. First we are selecting yes, no? Current node, and then we are finding its all children and grandchildren. Which type? Button type. And now once we have selected it, because button is a grandchildren of this current node. So how we can select all children or its grandchildren also using descendant access. Here we can use descendant access. Now, and then out of this button, we need to select first one button, you can specify index position. Okay, suppose I want to select this button along with self node we want to also select. If you want to select self node also, so you can use R self. You can check here. -R -self. Now you can check it. Okay, so here this is a one approach, and you can check what is a descendant. Descendant basically is used to select all children and its grandchildren of the current. Okay, now we try to understand ancestor element. What is the ancestor? Let's now we try to understand. Suppose I want to select button element. Which button? I need to select register button. So let's we are selecting button element. So / button. And now which having class attribute, suppose class attribute equal to value having btn. So you can check here how many button it's selecting. It's selecting 2 button because there are 2 button having class attribute is a btn. If you want to select first one, you can check here. So in this way, you can also select. Okay, if you want to select its ancestor base, its parent and its grandparent. So then you can use access ancestor double colon. And if you want to select all yes or no, its parent and grandparent, then you can use a star. Otherwise, if you want to select any specific, yes, you can check here. Then you can specify div. And now you can check how many div is selected. There are 13 div is selected. How many div is selected? There are 13 div. 13 actually it's ancestor div element. So out of that, yes, no. If you want to select any specific, yes, no, you can specify its position also. Okay, so this ancestor actually access helps to select all parent and its grandparent node of the current node. So here you have seen, guys, how we can use different access, yes or no, to select a specific element. Now I hope you are able to understand, because this access will be very helpful when you are not able to find any element by using their any specific attribute. There might be chance element doesn't contain a specific attribute by which you can select that specific element. There you can use, also using access concept, you can select those element. And sometimes we have complex page and we are not able to select any element. There also you can use access. With the access, yes, no, XPath access, you can select the appropriate element. So I hope it's clear what is the XPath access. Thank